Hey everyone, this is Mike here at the QuiverCast. Special offer for you all. The Endless Summer box set. It's written by Dana Brown and signed by Bruce Brown. This is such a killer deal. Go on to theendlesssummerbook.com. Check it out. Hey everybody, welcome to the QuiverCast.
You go left, I go right. Man, this wave is out of sight. Going surfing, going surfing, going surfing with friends.
Right on, everyone. Welcome back to the QuiverCast. Today we have Mark Richardson. Richo, right? You like to go by
Richo.
Richo?
That's me, Richo.
That's the way to go, right?
Yeah, call me Richo, mate. Only my mum calls me Mark.
Does that know you're in trouble then?
Nah, mum's she's always called me Mark. But
Okay.
everybody else, it's Richo.
Right on. And how'd you get into surfing?
Well, we moved up from down south in Canberra. I was born in Canberra in Australia, with the capital of Australia. It's no surf there. It's inland a little bit. And mum and dad broke up, and mum got in the car and drove us basically up to the Gold Coast. We lived in the Palm Beach pub for about 2 weeks. While I was living in there, my dad had bought me a foam board, just a single fin little foamy. I walked across the road and I saw a young kid sitting out there, and he stood up on a wave on a whitewash. And I'd never really seen that before. So I had this little foamy. I had a football background. I was brought up around football. Anyway, I saw this kid stand up, and I went, I'm out there. I'm going to try this. And I first wave, I just popped up and stood up, and the other kid was on the wave as well. And we both looked at each other, and we just rode it in. And I went, wow, how fun was that? That was just awesome. So that was the first time I stood up. It was I jumped up straight away.
Wow.
Yeah. And I stood up. I think I was natural foot, but it turns out that I ended up being a goofy foot. So somewhere along the line, I switched. I don't know how, but I didn't surf every day or anything like that at first. I still played football, and it wasn't until I got to the last bit of primary school and high school that I really started to want to surf every day. It became the thing that all my mates did, so I wanted to do it too. You know, living in Canberra, everything's football and stuff like that. As soon as you move near the coast, it was surfing, and that just slowly took over. I played football because I was pretty good. I played AFL, played for the school, and played for a fair few years. But I got pretty good at surfing pretty quick, and I ended up winning the school surfing contest my first year of high school with hardly any experience, and that sort of opened my mind that, hang on, I might be able to do this. From there, fell in love with it, and, they had the stubbies here, and I used to be the little grommy on the beach waiting for the pros to come in. We used to surf the shore break, just catch a little wave with them, and they'd give us a hoot and stuff, and I live in Palm Beach, which is just over the back of Burleigh. All the pros would warm up at 25th Avenue at Palm Beach.
Okay.
So I'd paddle out there and surf with them. And, yeah, that sort of, the stubbies was massive back then. There was people everywhere. And,
Yes.
it was the first sort of man-on-man surfing and all that sort of stuff going on. And I was just, really taken back by how cool this was. So I just started to surf as hard as I could, and by the time I left high school, I'd done with the football and got offered a contract to start surfing professionally. So that was an easy choice.
Yes. How was it being a goofy foot on the Gold Coast?
Yeah, that was a little bit testing at first, I would have to say.
Okay.
Gosh, I was just talking about this the other day. I really would love to live in a little spot like I do here where there's lefts, being on my forehand. Like, I just couldn't imagine how you would, just be. You have so many more options on your forehand when you surf. So I feel like that would have been super fun. But, to answer your question, it was a bit tough at first, but as you get good at it and it becomes second nature, you actually become a lot better than your forehand on your backhand. And so a lot of
Yes.
us Goldie Goofies are have amazing backhands and some, do some awesome turns, and also because we do it so much, it you start to get some variation into your turns and can link them up, and there's a whole range of things that you can work on your backhand to improve it. And when you're living here on the surf and ride all the time, it just becomes second nature. So you
Yeah.
become so good.
Who do you think is the best backside Gold Coast surfer of all time?
Well,
Do you have
of
a
all
favorite?
time, that's a bloody good question. That is. There are a ton of guys, that come to mind. I would have to say, at the moment, the guy that I probably like watching the most is a guy called Nick Vazicek.
Okay.
He's a snapper local. His backhand tube riding skills are absolutely amazing. He makes drops that are unbelievable and holds himself deep into the barrel. I mean, when the best guys are out there and it's absolutely pumping, you would pretty much most of the swells put him up there in the top three barrels that you saw
Wow.
with the forehand guys. He's that good. It's taken backhand tube riding out there to a whole new level. He'd hate me saying this now, but he's getting a bit slow and stuff, and so it takes him a few waves to get going these days. But when he does, he's pretty good. And if you ever check some footage of him, you see him surfing snapper, it'll blow you away. He's good. There's always the pros that are that have been good here. Oki moved up here years ago,
Yes.
and he just takes snapper apart. He still does.
Yeah.
If he's not dropping in on you.
Okay, let's talk about that. How do you deal with the crowds?
To put it bluntly, I don't anymore. Like you can surf some pretty uncrowded waves here on the Gold Coast if you know where to find them. It is a little bit harder, but there's some days where it's super crowded and the points are really the only spot that you can surf because of the way the swell is and stuff like that. You've kind of got to go out there with your head on, really, and put yourself in position and go. Otherwise, don't go out there and just
Yeah.
watch.
That's
So,
not a bad idea.
yes, yeah, and I can. The other week I was watching Burley. It was wasn't that crowded actually, but the sweep was horrendous. It was only for the toughest, fittest guys who could hang up the top and really get a good barrel. That's one of the things we have here on the Gold Coast. Normally, when there's a bit of swell, there's a bit of sweep. So, the best way to deal with the crowd is to just jump in the sweep and drift with it and do a few laps. And normally, you'll pick up one or two waves. And if you get a good one, like you only need one or two good ones on the points here when it's good per surf. That's all you need.
Yeah.
There's the guys that do their laps and stuff and put their time in out there, and they get a lot more. When it's this, the current is really strong, it sorts the crowd out pretty quickly. When there's no current and the waves are just absolutely perfect, well, like I said, for me, I don't deal with it, so I really don't. I won't surf out there. It's just too much. It's got beyond the point where it's fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun to surf out there when it's like that. It's just way too crowded. So we try and find other options when it's like that, you know.
Okay.
Well, we have a reef break here at Palm Beach, man-made reef, that has opened up a few little another spot for everyone. It's particularly good for us older boys because it's generally doesn't have a much current because it's so far out in the ocean.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you got to paddle out there on the bigger board and stuff. So, when the swell comes up, I enjoy going out there a little bit. But yeah, you've either got to deal with it if you're young and fit and you're strong. That's based, you'll get some waves out there. It's no question that the crowds a lot worse ever have been here on the Gold
Okay.
Coast.
Is there a pecking order out there? Is there any respect given to the older guys or the guys that are surfing there every day?
there definitely is pecking orders within reason. It's more so when you get a lot of local surfers who are out there at the same time. And then the pecking order will get sorted out, and it'll be much nicer surfing out there when that's happening. But eventually everyone's going to go in, and then, you get some people just sort of stepping over the line, and it just all changes, and then it just turns into a free-for-all. Yeah, until the guys are, it's really good, and all the guys are out there, then, yeah, it's, it's, let's say, you see some funny things, and you see some very close. You see some things where you go, "Wow, I can't believe someone didn't get hurt." Then, so for me, I tend to steer away from that. There's no need to do that. There's plenty of other waves to surf around here, and I prefer to do that.
I get that, but let me just ask you this: deep inside, if someone doesn't belong out there for whatever reason, not that they're not local, let's just say that they're not good enough to be out there and they're dangerous, and it's taken away from your opportunity to catch a wave. How do we fix that? Is there a way to fix it?
Well, yeah, there is. It's generally not done in the right way when that is someone has to be educated, as you know. Surfing has been known for that, and that still happens out there. You can be out there with a big crowd, and there was a couple of guys having a go at each other, and they ruin the whole vibe. Definitely, that happens. But, like, I'm a surf coach, so I tend to like to be a little bit more, I suppose, do it in a much nicer way. I can't think of any big words, mate. I don't have any big words in my vocabulary, so.
I know what you're saying. I'm trying to think of the word too. I can't think. But
diplomatic is the word, I suppose.
There you go.
And you want to get your point across, but you also want them to, feel safe and not threatened at all. So, and then you'll get your message across. So, I had a guy cut across a wave, and I was going along the wave, just threw his board, and I ran over it, and he put a huge hole in one of my brand new boards. It wasn't nice, and yeah, you do see red for a second there, but I pretty much just took the opportunity to say to the surfer that wasn't the thing to do, and this is the way to get out of the way, and sort of educate them for next time. And they ended up offering to pay for it and stuff, but I didn't accept it. I just dealt with it and understand that that's part of surfing and stuff. But especially here on the Gold Coast, there is a pecking order out there at times. And when there is, it's much nicer to surf out there. I've been through the stages on the Gold Coast here where there was a pecking order on most of the breaks at all times. And to the point now where, that's just all changed, and it's just a free-for-all out there. We have some signs here on the points and stuff that people can read to sort of learn about, the unwritten laws of surfing, and I suppose. Yeah, you definitely do get some surfers out there that shouldn't be out there.
Yeah.
Most of the time here, though, when there is waves and it is quite good and the points are quite hollow, they can't get out. The sweep's just too heavy, so the ocean sort of deals with it. It goes up a notch, and the average punter can't get out there, so they tend to go and try and find the more softer, easier wave, and you get the best guys out there getting the tubes, which is what I saw the other day at Burleigh. It was probably some of the best waves that I've seen at Burleigh in a long time, and the bank was just phenomenal. The guys that were surfing out there, whenever a set came through and you really wanted someone to catch it, they were going. So it was such a good thing to watch. I spent about 4 or 5 hours on the point for just watching these amazing waves.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I saw some top-notch barrels, especially, I was watching my son mainly. He did a few laps, but I was watching Liam O'Brien, and he was just like a kid in a candy store out there. He was just, because you had to fight the sweep and you had to be really fit, and the crowd was quite thin, and the wind came up a little bit side shore, but then the tide drained out, and there were some moments that, were really cool.
That's awesome. Okay, so going back to your career as a surfer, Did you enjoy doing contests?
I loved it, mate. I love contests,
Okay.
surfing contests. That was, like I said, I fell in love with the stubbies first. The whole thing about it, I wanted to be one of those guys from day dot that was, one of the top surfers. They just seemed to have this aura around them that you could feel, their confidence. Back then it was the top 16 and stuff. And,
Yes.
I'm a surf coach. I'm a contest coach, I would call myself. I'm more of a preparation coach for the elite athletes. I'm watching surf comps all day long. I watch every heat of the Challenger Series. I watch all the CTs. I follow my surfers really closely. I really enjoy watching the surfers push themselves because I competed for so long that I understand what they're going through, and it's when you achieve a goal in surfing, it's very rewarding because it's you and the ocean and your mind,
Okay. So that's where I'm kind of heading. Before we get into your surf coaching, what kind of competitor were you? Were you letting the waves and who surfed the best, or was there strategy?
Well, definitely, I was known as a pretty tenacious competitor. And, we had best four waves when I started in 20-minute heats. So, you had to get out there and get the job done and get in front. That was pretty much the way to do it. You couldn't surf from behind in those non-priority situations. You really had to get your waves. So I tended to, be quite fit because I came from a football background. Yeah, I was more pretty aggressive with waves and stuff. That never led to me winning. I made a lot of heats, didn't sort of, win. And I remember being at a presentation of a surf comp, and Rabbit was there, and he came up to me and he said, "Look, Richo, I reckon you're one of the best, but you can't win a contest. You can get through any heat. I've seen you get through some hard heats, but you can't win." I didn't know what to say. I was like, "Wow, that's pretty." He's into his surfing and he watches everything, so he'd noticed this, and that sat me back down and thought, well, I want to learn how to win. Sitting and waiting for a wave became more of a way to a better way to compete.
Okay.
And then they changed the thing to best three waves. So, the aggressive sort of tactic wasn't the way to go then. Once it got to best two waves and they started priority, then it's all about, sitting there and making sure you're on the better waves. I've sort of had like the days where I would be, pretty aggressive and then had to learn how to wait and sit there. And once I did, I was able to execute that a lot better. I started to win a lot more.
Well, so you became the 4-time Australian champ, right?
I'm actually 6 times.
6? Okay.
So I've won 3 Australian Open titles and 3 Masters Australian titles.
Okay.
There's only Nat Young from Nat Young, and there might be one other person. I think there's a couple of us that we've won, the only guys that have won 3 Australian Open titles.
Wow.
I mean, the national titles here in Australia was a big thing when I was younger.
Yes.
So that's something that you really aspired to. These days it's probably like more, you're shooting at a more professional sort of aim stuff. So a lot of guys skip it a little bit. But what we're finding is they come back in the Masters. So, the Masters, you've got the Toby Martins and the Jake Pattersons and these guys, they've all come back and won Masters titles in the Australian titles. I was competing right up until I was about 48. Yeah. And then I started to really focus more on my coaching.
Okay. Learning everything you did about yourself and competing, how do you coach? What's your method of coaching? And I know you're dealing with the best surfers in the world.
So I'm like I was saying before, I'm a bit more of a contest coach. So I do all aspects of coaching, obviously, but I work a lot on their decision making in the surf.
There you go.
I run a lot of drills with athletes, find out what their strengths and weaknesses are, watch them compete, basically sit down, have a meeting with them, find out what they think their areas are that they need to improve, and set up a plan, and away we go. I have athletes that I've developed from grommets right up to the CT, like Liam O'Brien, Callum
Yep.
Robson. And then I've had other athletes come to me, sort of midway through their career because they're a little bit stuck and they're trying to work out what are the pieces that are missing in their, competitive strategy and stuff. So I take them on board as well. So I've worked with Isabella Nichols for a long time.
Yeah.
At the grassroots level, I have Groms and younger surfers that I develop up in groups. And then as they grow and they set their, it's all about setting goals with the crew and helping them achieve them. That's one of my real focuses.
Is everyone's main focus different? Every competitor?
Definitely, definitely. There's, or when you're looking at surfing broadly and being a surf coach, I might say I'm a contest coach, but yeah, I'm coaching people towards their goals. So once they decide what they want to do, and it might be just to be a local surfer and want to get barreled, or they want to go to Indo and charge, whatever they want to do. They want to go and be a hippie and live in Byron and surf twin fins. And they want to be good at it, right up to the elite athlete. I encompass all that and talk to them about what they want to achieve with surfing and what pathway they want to take, and then I help them achieve their goals.
Okay.
It's an awesome job. It's like I'm so grateful for the position I'm in helping people in that area. It's awesome.
And you get to watch them grow, which is super cool.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
So rewarding when you see them improve, right down to when a Grom texts you, "Oh, Richo, I did the best turn I've ever done because I compressed on my finish," or something like that. I remember working with Courtney Conlog. We were talking about how she generated speed properly, and she was under pressure in a heat and used the technique to help her get around a section to do a big finishing turn, which ended up giving her the score to get through the heat to make the final. I think it was at Bell's one year. Those sorts of things, those moments, they really buzz me. I love them. That's why I coach.
Now, what's the youngest group you're doing through the professionals?
I have kids. When they can paddle out and catch waves by themselves. They're reasonably comfortable in most conditions. Not too big, obviously. I just had to call off my Super Grom session today. Actually, the waves were so huge. So there was just white water and froth everywhere. So, the Groms are good. They want to train all the time when the waves are bigger. We just surf the inside reforms and stuff. But, today I had to cancel it. So they started around, I think there's one or two kids there that are about 8.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That group that I run is like they run up to about 12. So about 8 to 12 sort of. And then once they progress, they move up to my next group, and they're about 12 to 16 sort of thing. And then they shift up into my elite group where that's where the pros come into it, or some budding pros, the younger pro juniors and stuff like that. So I've sort of 3 main tiers to my coaching with my group stuff. And then I do all my privates as well with all the guys that want help either with their strategy, their overall contest act, or then there's the guys that just want to, be good free surfers and improve their surfing,
That's a different one, I think, from a competitor surfer, right? And do they work together? Do you have them train together?
I do sometimes, yeah. I kind of like to put skills under a little bit of pressure to see whether they're sticking or not. So, we slow things down first and teach them. And he might be just, an average surfer. If he starts to improve in that area that we work on, then I like to put a little bit of pressure on him. And sometimes I'll invite him down to train with some of the older, better surfers and see if he can still keep it going while trying to step up a notch, So I definitely do that for sure. It's one of the probably, like, I do that with the Groms a lot. The Groms are mainly the ones that want to compete. They come to me and say, look, I love comps, so I want to do comps. I get them to a point, and then I start putting them up against some of the older boys, and they all push their surfing. I had Liam O'Brien surf against a kid called Hunter Anderson. He just young goofy footer he's a Goldie Goofy. Had them surf off against each other out the front, and it was quite cool to watch. So I love doing that stuff.
Stoke out the kid too. He's getting to surf against Liam O'Brien.
Oh, he was that stoked, and Liam got pushed. Liam got pushed too because he doesn't want to lose to a Grom.
Of course not. No way.
And he nearly did. He just got over the line in the end, but the Grom pushed him all the way, and that was so good for his confidence.
Yeah, of course. Sometimes you have these younger kids that want to compete. Do you sometimes have conflicting thoughts from the parents, or are they usually on the same page?
No, definitely there's a parental influence in what happens with their kids in any sport. And surfing is the same as other ones as well, where some parents can be a little bit over the top with what they're wanting from their kids. But in the end, most of the time, I haven't seen too many, things where I'd say it's like bad intent from the parents or bad intent from the kids. It's mainly that they just don't understand what the process should be like to, encourage the kids and get them to be the best they can be,
Yeah.
And they want that, but they go about it the wrong way. That's all. And so I have come across that a fair bit, and I just find it, I'm a dad and I'm guilty of doing that myself.
Me
with
too.
My son.
That's what I'm asking.
We all are. Every dad is. Once you sort of understand that, become more aware of it, then it doesn't become so much of an issue. And when I notice that, I definitely will have a say, to the parents and the kids and try and find that better balance. So, because it's all about the kid improving, whether he's going to be a pro surfer or not.
Yeah.
It's all about him improving, and that's why he's come into coaching, and that's what my goal is. So any of those things that I feel like are holding the kid back are definitely addressed. And, I have seen that before, but not too many times with bad intent or anything like that. Most of the time it's within good intent, but, there's no handbook on how to bring up your son and daughter when you're talking about surfing, and especially when you hand it down to them too. It's one of those sports that we hand down to our kids. So
there's going to be more second, third generation surfers.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose when I was younger, and probably you too, it was handed down by your parents. And if you didn't have that, well, you had to go and learn yourself,
Yeah. No, I learned by myself. That's how it happened to me.
Yeah. That's how I learned too. My parents weren't surfers, but once you've got that skill, then you pass it down to your kids, and it just keeps getting passed down now. So there's a lot of kids that come to coaching that the parents are surfers for sure. And there are the ones that aren't as well. They're there. If they're determined enough, they always become good surfers, that's for sure. I don't think it holds them back at all if they have the determination and the want to be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's definitely easier for the kids when their parents have taught them, though. They definitely have a little bit of a head start.
Most kids now, by the time 10 or 12, they're pretty accomplished, pretty good surfers out there now at such a young age.
There definitely is, yeah. Wow, it's amazing the grommets that rip here. It's amazing.
Oh, I can only imagine.
I have some kids, 9, 10 year old, and they're doing turns that just look like
man turns.
Well, yeah, they look like they're 13 or 14. You're like, wow, it's 9, far out. It's just getting younger and younger, with all the, the wave pools and all these little places that, you're learning the skill of coaching and teaching and how to become a good surfer as the learning curves, the boards are getting better, the learning curve's not so steep. I find that if you're instructed the right way, or you have the right information, and you ride the bit bigger board and you sort of follow them a bit more of a traditional process, they're becoming better and better, younger and younger, right before my eyes.
Yeah. What do you think the future of pro surfing is going to look like? Is it going to? It's changing so much over the last several years.
It is. and it always will. It sits still for a little bit, and we get used to it, and then they start evolving it. I think there's a few things that'll change with the contests. It's pretty brutal coming on tour and only having 5 events to make the cut. I really find that that's a pretty big one. I think the future there will be that they'll have more events before they make the cut and less events after the cut. After the cut, those events will be like more Dream Tour events, I would say. They'll be,
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're going to do something like that. I really enjoy the Challenger Series and the Regional Tour.
I like it a lot, actually.
I love watching the Challenger Series just as much as I like watching the CT surfing.
I think it's better. I think if they had better waves, but even more better, but I enjoy it more.
I think you're right. The 4-man heats are pretty exciting.
I like 4-man heats.
When someone can jump from last place to first, still, it's pretty exciting. So, yeah, I definitely like that. And I agree that they probably need to up the ante with a few more better wave spots for the Challenger Series, They need to have some spread it out a little bit, especially if you're trying to get on the CT and you're surfing these waves that aren't that quality, and then all of a sudden you're on the CT and you're expected to surf waves with quality against the best in the world. You're sort of throwing in the lines cage a little bit there. Yeah. There's a couple of things that don't make sense, and another one is with our regional tour here in Australia, the guys have to, they have to travel to Indonesia, Taiwan, the Philippines to do the 5-star events. And then we only have one of them here in Australia at Newcastle. We have a few other 1000s and smaller events, but it's an Australian regional tour, so they have to go overseas. It's just, I think the money's not here in Australia at the moment. More Asian tours are starting to kick into gears, a little bit more money over there. So we're having to have combined events with the Asian regional tour and Australia. So, yeah, I'd like to see something like that change in the future for the regional surfers to have more events in Australia. It started off like that when they did change it over, and it was really cool here in Australia having all the Aussie, the best guys that were trying to get on the CT in events surfing against each other without any of the other internationals there. I thought it was unreal for Australian surfing. Things have changed a little bit now, so I'd like to see that change a little bit on the regional tour level. And, yeah, the Challenger Series is great, but just fix the waves up a little bit there. And then if they make that adjustment on the CT where there's more events for the guys when they get on tour to establish themselves to see if they can actually make the cut, I think that would be better too. So there's a few things with the contests. With surfing in general, wow, the manoeuvres, it's only going to keep evolving. Guys are going to start to do airs on their first turns, and, they are starting to do them now, but, backflips and all that sort of stuff, just pushing the boundaries. I think they'll always keep doing that. I think the other thing too is power surfing, to me, I don't think it'll ever die, especially when you got guys like Ethan Ewing on tour that just make it look absolutely first class. It's just, it's awesome to watch that style of surfing. So for me, I always think that the world title, I'm glad it's going to be decided at Cloudbreak in the next year. So that's going to be cool. It still baffles me why it's not decided at Pipe, because that was the ultimate always. But
I agree with you.
I totally understand the logistics on how it works, and it's okay being the first event as well, but definitely better being the last event.
What about the 5-man format for the final?
The 5-man format, it hasn't won me over yet. It really hasn't. I watched the Trestles event every heat over and over and over. I was in hospital actually watching it, so I had no choice. But I watched it a fair few times, and it really, it just didn't get me excited. I mean, it's kind of exciting if you were there, I think, but it didn't transfer over through the screen. I'm still a little bit like, if you do all that work all year and you lead the ratings and stuff, yeah, you get 3 heats and you can win a world title, but I just see that as the person who won still. I think I just think that that's the way it should always be, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about it yet, but let's just say I don't mind the WSL trying things and changing it, you know, if it doesn't work and things like that. So they haven't yet tried it in really good waves. It might be really exciting if it's pump and cloud break and, you know, world titles on the line and, you
Well,
know.
well, with that being said, the Olympics, you know, there was a day or two that it was just firing and gnarly. But when the people were winning the medals, waves kind of, they weren't that fun to watch.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that you got to look at, you know, because you'd like to be able to wrap it up in perfect waves. I mean, it will work then, but yeah, they could end up being a cloud break and the waves are 2 foot for the whole time, you know. And so the world title will be decided on airs again, you know, like it was at Trestle sort of thing. So it could definitely happen. We know that from being surfers, but.
Yeah.
It hasn't won me over. I want to give it a couple of more years, I suppose. I'm going to have to. That's what they're heading. That's what they're going to do. So we'll see how it goes in good waves, and if they score, and you can ask me that question again after that, I suppose. But
yeah, of course.
I'll always like the way that it used to be, where if you know,
accumulated points.
Yeah, and it's like different conditions. You know, there's some small wave comps, there's some bigger wave comps, there's some barrels, there's some airs. You know, I think that needs to be all encompasses to become the world champ. You know.
Yep. Okay, I agree with you, or I see your point. What about, should the WSL be run by surfers?
Good question. Yeah, well, surfers are always out for lunch, aren't they? They're going surfing if the waves are good, so nothing will get done. I know that's what happens here on the Gold Coast. You'd think nobody works here.
Yeah. No.
If the waves are good, it's like where's every? Normally it's the tradies are all at work, but then they're in the surf. So, yeah, I think there should be a surfer's influence for sure, and there's some great business minds out there in the surfing world as well. So, having competitors that have been through it, I think they should have a definite say in the whole process. There needs to be a committee, and the surfers athletes should be involved. And I think the business side of it has to be involved as well. So I think definitely guys like Ace Buck and
there you go.
Probably Kelly, if he really wanted to, could probably do it. No doubt that they could do it. I'm sure there's a few others as well that I could mention, but I would say that in general, yes, they should be involved in it as per running the whole show by themselves. Yeah, I think you'd be wanting some advice there.
Do you see pro surfing getting stronger over the next decade? Do we need non-surfers to watch, I guess is the question.
Yeah, it's interesting, with that little pocket, because, you know, it was always just the traditional surfer. That's we were always watching the surfing and everyone else watched everything else. But, yeah, there's definitely a need for that bigger audience for sure. So it's got to be watchable, that's for sure. It's like watching football and you don't know the rules sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're colourful and there's a bit of blood or something, yeah. You're not really interested, are you? So something's got to hook you to it a bit.
Yeah.
Whether it be in perfect waves or the actual presentation of the whole thing, the money, I don't know. I'm sure some people would have some funny ideas of what the surfers would have to put on the line. I mean, you think about some of those guys who surf Mavericks and stuff when it's absolutely huge. This, you know, they're putting everything on the line. It's crazy. And
just to surf.
Yeah. Yeah. It's next level. It really is. There's some definite things that can change in surfing to help it go forward. I know that I'm a full-on fan.
But you surfed your whole life. That's the thing.
I've surfed my whole life, yeah.
And you understand it better than most, actually.
And, you know, like I think one of the things that needs to be talked about is the identities of each surfer that we look up to.
That's a huge one.
huge, because, Kelly Slater was massive and everybody knows him. And if you don't even surf, you know him, They know that Kelly Slater guy is just so famous. So hopefully we can have some guys that come out like that keep the sport, in everybody's face a little bit more,
Well,
just think identity thing is a massive, massive part of it.
okay. But with that being said, also, there's no personalities.
There's no personalities. I get it. Yeah, no, for sure. It's it's all very nice too.
It is very nice.
And, a bit of rivalry, like the Kelly and Andy stuff and that sort of stuff, that just makes it more exciting and things like that, When two teams play each other that are fierce rivals in the football, it tends to bring a bigger crowd, doesn't it? So
yes, you need it.
All those little things need to be looked at and how they create it. And I just used to love the top 16. That was just, that was awesome.
But I think one way to fix it, going back to our conversation earlier, is every heat should be a 4-man heat. In my opinion, but
yeah, I definitely can see why you're saying that, for sure.
Action wise,
definitely, yeah. And if you put them out in pretty good waves, for sure, those
some blood's going to be, spilled.
What do you think about the dual format where they run 2 heats at once when there's 4 guys in the water?
That's cool, but it seems like the second heat behind never really catches waves, in my opinion.
Yeah,
watching that pipe, they're kind of they got to really watch what they're taking off on.
Definitely, I understand that. I think there's some definite tactics around that, and you can pretty much just sit there and not catch anything and make sure you get priority when the 20 minutes starts.
That's right.
They probably need a little bit longer. I don't know, but yeah, there's an influence between the first and the second heat for sure. So yeah, I think it's good for action, but there's probably some maybe things in there that are a little unfair, particularly if you need a wave and the other guy's had a wave and this guy doesn't need a wave in the first heat and he decides to take a wave that the second heat the guy needed, It sort of influences things a little bit, I feel. The 4-man thing, I can see what you're saying. But being a competitor, I really like the man-on-man stuff just because it's a little bit more tactical.
Yeah. You're an accomplished competitive surfer. How important is it to be a coach, to be accomplished?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps to have that competitive background and competed for so long. Mm-hmm. You've been through all the things that the guys are going through. But that's not to say that someone who's a good coach and can get their message through to the athlete, that can be good for a certain type of athlete. So I don't find that is a thing that's, a definite requirement. I say it's something that is important for sure. There's a lot of aspects to surfing too. And, I would tend to think that the guys who have competed are going to definitely be more of a competitive coach, but guys who haven't competed as much but still surf pretty good might be more of a technical type coach,
There you go. That's smart. That's smart. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I do with my athlete is I can encompass the whole thing, but a lot of them I point them in the right direction on to what coaches to use for specific things that problems they face. And I think, yeah, I think surfing is going to branch out in coaching a little bit more in that regard. There'll be more contest coaches, technique coaches. There'll be the mind coaches
I see that.
as well.
Never thought about it, but I see it now.
Yeah. I've had some great results with things like that with athletes. So I feel like that's definitely going to be somewhere the coaching's going to go.
So more of a team. So there's 4 of you guys, and you guys do your specialty.
That's right. Yep.
I like that. That's a great idea. Now, with that being said, though, is that going to be affordable to the everyday surfer, or is we're going to get more money, more sponsors going to have to help, and because that could be a little pricey.
I think you'll find you'll have the internet, and people will be doing it through the internet that way.
Oh, so there you go. That's a good idea.
So I feel like yeah, the price will be affordable. It's probably currently it's not, but I think in the future it will. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you need to come from money to become a professional surfer now? Is there any disadvantages of someone that's maybe from a blue collar family?
That's a good question. It's always been part of it. It's always been a big factor because you can get to more events and things. And you
Yeah,
know,
that's right.
back when the QS was, you had to go and do events overseas a lot more. Well, then, yeah, there was that aspect. But now with the regional tours, it depends. Some countries, some regions, yes, the money makes it easier for them, and the less fortunate people can only do what they can do. It is expensive to go in the events, and that's why I was talking about the regional events here in Australia being
Yes, makes sense.
overseas and stuff. So it was more affordable for them, and I love the way that it started out. It's more drifted to being a little bit more. You do have to have the money for sure. So yes, it's definitely an advantage, but I would say that it's not as bad as it used to be.
Hmm.
Because guys are working and funding their campaigns on the regional tours, and it's semi-affordable for them.
Yeah. And they're seeing the world too.
Yeah, well, they're going to do their events in their region, which is cool, get to go overseas and bits and pieces. But going back to what I said before, I do believe that they should have more
I
events
agree.
here in Australia, and it should be set up for, like you said, the people that are less fortunate and can just drive to the events.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
agree. Did you watch the NIA's contest, the QS?
I did, yeah. My son
How
was
good was
involved in
that?
that. I was pumping.
It's probably the best wave ever. Or I'm a goofy foot, but that was a good
Aeneas
one.
is a beauty, that's for sure. She's a jewel, and there's lots of good waves up there.
Have you surfed there?
Oh yeah, I've competed there as well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That good?
um,
Is that day? Those couple days?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've had some days
Wow.
at the QS, and we used to have the Australian Championship Tour. We had an event up at Nias for about 5-6 years back in the late '90s, and
Okay.
we had it absolutely amazing, pumping many times. There wasn't many times when it was bad. It was pretty much a good contest every time. Perfect waves. So it's
Yeah.
a magical place to compete, sitting out there with 10 sets coming to you and just four guys in the lineup.
Hmm.
When those swells come pouring into that bay, she's a beauty.
From someone that's trying to qualify, and then all of a sudden Josh Kerr gets in it. What was your thoughts about Josh Kerr being in the contest?
Well, he's over there with his daughter, so and the guy can still surf pretty good. So
Fuck yeah.
why not? Why not? He was
Okay.
in
All
there
right.
to have some fun, and then if he's I've loved watching him out there.
Oh no, he was ripping. I mean, the guy's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah. So
I think he's better now than he was back 10 years ago.
yeah, he was definitely probably rides the tube better, but he's still got his airs and his big maneuvers and stuff that he does. So I think it's like whenever those guys who compete at the highest level drop back down and surf in those lower level events, I think
Hmm.
it's just good. It's good for everyone.
Okay.
Um, I don't feel like he was taking the spot of anyone or anything like that. He started in the early rounds and put his entry in and got accepted, and so yeah, I liked watching him there. He was actually staying right next to my son, and
Okay.
they're both in snapper board riders. So yeah, Ty was surfing with him a little bit over there, and he said it was good to watch.
And how old's Ty?
Ty's just about to turn 19.
So he's still young. How does he feel about competitive surfing?
Well, he loves it. He's competed in the regional tour and doing the pro juniors. He's had some pretty good results here and there, so his rating's moving up slowly. He's growing and learning his craft and stuff, but it's going to be up to him on to how far he wants to take it.
Yeah.
But at this point, yeah, he's loving competing against
He
some of the best
rips.
in Oz. I'm really proud of him. It's awesome to
Yeah, of
watch him
course.
compete. I'm like any dad when he competes. I'm pretty nervous. So,
Do you have the coaching hat on when he's surfing the heat? Or are you dad? Are you both?
well, when he's on the beach, I'm coach. Once he leaves and paddles out, then I'm dad. And
All right. Fair.
I start to sit back and watch it as more of a parent. It's hard being the coach of your son and doing the dual cap thing, but I try and keep things at the beach when I'm discussing things with him. And, that's the contest stuff, and most of the stuff at home I keep to being dad.
Yeah. What about if you have one of your, I don't know if you call them students or the guys you're coaching, whatever term you use, do you ever see like if they're riding the wrong board or something? Do you ever give them board advice?
Definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. That's a definite thing that we do. I'm looking for, more performance in their maneuvers, and, basically as a contest coach, if they're surfing in events, I'm trying to get them to be able to be scored better. So if there's anything holding them back, I'll definitely give them advice. We're always going through their boards and looking at the waves they're surfing, and how they can, juice more out of the waves so they can score more. It's a never-ending process because the waves change all the time. Yes. And the guys change, they get stronger, they grow, on trips. So, the boards are a massive part of it. It's, I always say the board doesn't have to be as good as the surfer, though. The surfer can ride and make the board go good by making good decisions and putting themselves in good positions and things like that. But when you're talking about the whole thing clicking and everything being perfect, which is what you're aiming for. We were discussing this the other day. It doesn't happen that often where you surf the perfect heat. Even Kelly sits back and says, like I could have done this better and could have done that better when he's got near 210s in a heat, you hear him talk. So we're always looking for more performance, and the boards, definitely the coach should have a say in what's going on. And I like to talk to the shapers themselves.
Okay, that was my next question. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can then explain to the shaper that I'm looking for this type of result with this, whatever maneuver I'm looking for. Yep. And then they can sort of look through their files or whatever and scratch their head a bit and come up with a way to make that turn easier for the athlete to perform. That's to me what the perfect board is. It just makes your repertoire that you can do easier to perform. That's the big key word, It has to help you do it. With younger athletes, I would say I like to keep their training wheels on a little bit. So I like to have a few things in their boards that are propping things up that they're not so good at. A little bit of thickness under their chest or something if they're quite light they're weaker and they're not strong, so they can catch waves easier. A lighter, better surfer where we take the volume out so they can do their turns better because they're catching plenty of waves,
Yes. Yeah.
So it depends on where the athlete or the average surfer is at with their surfing, and then I really like to give them that board that matches their abilities so it enhances it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when you find that sweet spot with your own board, it's it makes your surfing more enjoyable, and when you've got a good board, you just want to surf, don't you?
With that being said, do you ever coach or give advice to an older surfer, someone that was maybe a really good surfer that's in his 40s, 50s, even 60s? Maybe you see him riding the wrong equipment or something. Do you ever throw out advice like, hey, if you try this or little?
It's hard not to sometimes. When you're paddling back up the point and you're watching people surf past you, and you watch, as being a surf coach, you can see all their faults and what helped them and stuff. I tend to keep a lot of that stuff to myself. But when a friend or someone wants a session with me, if they're going to talk to me at that level, then definitely that opens the door for me to talk to them about their boards. I still have friends that surf the wrong board, and they know it
all day.
They're the same age as me. We grew up surfing together, and I would love to say, oh, you should be on this board. You'd have so much more fun,
Right.
I just give them the subtle hint that, oh, my new board's got this much volume, and what's yours got?
Yes.
I just give them subtle hints.
It's a strange thing.
And then sometimes they'll ask me, oh, how come you're doing this turn? Your board looks like you're doing that. And then again, that opens the door for me to talk about it. But
Yeah.
like you're busting at the chops sometimes when you see someone out there struggling away and you just paddling past them. And if they're nice and they've given me a wave or something like that, I might go, here's a bit of advice.
Yeah.
I'm happy to give them a bit of advice. And, like we said before, there's a little bit of educating going on as well. So I don't mind doing that, and it helps everyone.
So you had something that happened to you last year, right?
Yeah, I had a bit of a near-death experience last year.
Crazy.
I was in Bali and I got really sick. Thought I had Bali belly. Was in the hotel room for a few days. Realised it was more serious. Went to the hospital and worked out that I was bleeding internally and I needed blood transfusions. I was in Bali. I was only in Bali a day. I'd been over there a month before for about 6 weeks working and surfing, and then went back to work again and surf. Yeah, ended up in the hospital, needed transfusion, had to put the word out to the surfing community of my blood type. My blood type was rare in Indonesia, so they actually didn't have any blood in the hospital to give me. So I relied on putting the information out on Instagram, and the surfing community in Bali was it's hard to talk about. It's like very emotional I get when I talk about it because the help that I received was amazing. I had friends there. They worked out they were the same blood type as me, came straight to the hospital and donated blood to me, which kept me alive. So then the word got put out. People were putting it on their stories, and so I ended up getting a lot of blood donations. Unfortunately, when you're in Indonesia, things don't really pan out the way they should all the time. So eventually they ran out of blood. They couldn't work out what was happening with me. I was bleeding internally. They were just giving me blood transfusions, and it was going through me. It was just a roller coaster, a merry-go-round, pretty much. Round and round we go. Got to a point where they told me that I didn't have any blood left, and it got pretty serious. The Australian government stepped in and sent a plane over to Indonesia to pick me up. Lucky when they got there, I was on death's door. I feel like I only had a few hours left in me. I was pretty weak. I couldn't move. My body was shutting down. All the organs were shutting down. There was other organs like propping up other ones. If you want an analogy, it was like running probably about 15 marathons back to back. Your body's just depleted of everything. I couldn't even lift my hand, really. I was trying to stay positive. I had a couple of mates there, and they were helping me stay positive. And then, the Australian government, with the help of my ex-wife, some friends, got the message out. They got to me, put 3 bags of blood into me straight away, put me on the plane, brought me back to Darwin, had emergency surgery straight away, spent another 3 weeks in the hospital in Darwin. Then I got out of hospital and I was quite weak and stuff. Since then, I've got stronger and better, and it's now in October, it'll be 12 months since then. It took me about 6 months to get back surfing. Once I got back into the surfs, things started to come back online a bit quicker.
Oh,
so,
cool.
In the end, I'm just very grateful to be alive and be here talking to you. It was a bit of a wild ride. If you're ever going up to Indonesia, 2 important advices would be make sure you have travel insurance. Don't go up to Indonesia without it, nor travel overseas without it. That's number 1. That really saved my ass. And then number 2, find out what blood type you are, because some areas of the world don't have that specific type of blood. In Southeast Asia, I'm A negative. They don't have A negative. None of the locals are born with it up there. You're relying on expats and tourists to come and donate. So I was really lucky that the message got out between the surfers, and people were driving back from Ulus and and driving an hour and stuff just to come and donate to me and come to my hospital and see if I was all right.
Wow, that's cool.
I wish I could remember everybody's face and reach out and say thank you. I've done that on Instagram and done that wherever I can. If you were there and you're listening, and well, I'm that grateful for everything that those people did. And just the importance of actually donating blood itself. I didn't realise that it keeps people alive and it's really important in different situations. So if you can ever go and donate blood, you're doing a massive thing for the people in your area. If something happens, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you made it. Like, yeah. Wow. I don't know. I have no words, but.
Thanks, mate. It was a life-changing experience. I mean, you'd think that I'd be in hospital being upset and worried that I wasn't on the beach in Bali getting barreled at Bingen or something, and drinking beers. But it's one of those things that happens in your life, and I feel like I had to go through it, and now I'm a changed person. So I'm pretty grateful for the whole experience and what happened. I mean, it was not nice, and it was quite horrible, and it was very, very scary. So I felt like a little boy again. It shrinks you right down to your bare essentials. Your health is the most important thing. Maybe in the past I wasn't so aware of this stuff and was made aware of it, and I think that I've learnt and become a better person for it. It's really helped me, and I still a little bit emotional about those times, but now it's all move forward and learn from it and be grateful to be here and see things in a different perspective.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
We all, no matter how old we are, we learn something all the time, something new.
In all that bad stuff, there's positives everywhere, and you've just got to look for them, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's the mantra from now on, mate.
There you go. All right, everybody. So this is Mike and Richo, and we are out of here. Thanks for coming on, Richo.
No problem, mate. Anytime. Good talking to you.
I go right. Man, this wave is out of sight. Going surfing. Going surfing. Going surfing with friends. Ride this wave to the shore. Paddle out, I'm gonna catch 10 more. Going surfing. Going surfing. Going surfing with friends. I don't care if it's wrong or right. I'm gonna do it all day, I'm gonna do it all night. I'm going surfing. Going surfing. Going surfing with friends. On my way, it's a beautiful day. I'm going surfing. I'm going surfing. Going surfing with friends. Woo!
Hey, you guys, Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic, numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip. From the original print, you literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production. All hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film. But dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.